Hi, I'm Belinda from Cumulate Advisory. We've been thinking about the ways to support people who step up and join not-for-profit boards. For over 20 years, we've seen the knowledge gaps that directors can face when you step in from a different sector. You're tasked with different models of governance, fundraising, how you deliver the best impact for the communities you serve. And we thought that it might be helpful to pull together the latest knowledge, research, and insights on key topics. We hope that this gives you the confidence to lead the growth of your organisation. We'll keep the insights to under 10 minutes. Please let us know if it's useful and let us know if there are other topics you'd be interested in. Our first session today is on bequests, and really a key takeaway that as a director, if you can ensure your organisation has a really highly performing program for people to leave you in their will, it will become your fastest growing, most cost-effective fundraising revenue available. And that's according to JBWE's 2024 Bequest Report. But really what's just as important is it's an incredible opportunity to grow some very, very important relationships with a generation of Australians who will become legacy building and become really the culture and the soul of your organisation. What will we cover off today? Just some of the stats and drivers that are important to boards, including a focus on population ageing and why it means it's important to invest now. We'll take a look at where bequests are going at an organisational level. What are some of the risks? How can you free up funding in a tight funding environment to make sure you can fund this work? I'll have a quick look at a case study from the sector. One of the great things about the for-purpose sector is a willingness to share information. So we'll go through it, pull out the highlights, what's the latest thinking. Recently, Coda Capital put on a great breakfast and had some fantastic speakers. So I've pulled the highlights together from that, and that shapes part of the presentation. What's unusual about this particular fundraising recommendation is that there's a demographic trend underpinning it. That means it just should not be ignored. So when we look at the stats that should be relevant to board directors, 94% of bequests are unrestricted in their nature, and we all know that golden word of unrestricted funding. Their ROI is about 6 times the average for all fundraising, making them the most valuable source of income by quite a margin. They're growing at around 6% a year and have the highest return on investment of around 25%. Interestingly, it's both the rate of growth as well as the quantum that's significant. When you take a look, when you take a look at the top 50 philanthropic gifts for the year, there's usually around 20 bequests in there. So they can be very significant in size. Whenever I dip into the stats around the ageing of our population, I'm really astounded at how significant the shift will be. There's one number, it's a bit of a morbid one, but one number that's really relevant for our focus on bequests, and that's the number of deaths in Australia. The number of people dying from all causes at the moment is around 158,000. And that number is set to double over the next 40 years and in fact continue to grow from there. At a societal level, JBWE is challenging us that $5.4 trillion intergenerational wealth transfer is a unique opportunity to reshape our society. At the moment, the rate of bequests is low, and only 1% of that transfer is set to make its way to the great causes that we represent. As directors, imagine the good that we can do if we can work to inspire greater giving in wills. So just where are the bequests going? Include a charity is conducting a full analysis that will be available in 2025. But for now, the stats we know are, if you look across medical research, where I've spent a fair bit of time, the leading performing bequest organisation in medical research has 800 confirmed bequests. Melbourne's WeHi received $17 million in 2022 alone. Most bequests go to health and animal causes, but there's a fairly good spread across the sector, and bequests can grow anywhere that you put effort. 20 years ago, I put a program into AFL clubs, and we'll focus a bit more on that later. What can you expect in terms of size? Well, 7% are worth more than $500,000, but most are under. The average stat is hard to define, but around $144,000, and there are lots of variables in there. An interesting fact just to be mindful of is that 95% of assets are non-cash. So make sure your team's encouraging people to give shares, property, and other assets. As a director, what are the risks? Well, you can't dip in and dip out of bequests. 44% of your potential donors will change their will if you don't keep up engagement and look after them. And frankly, so they should. When someone tells you that they're going to leave your organisation in their will, it's the most significant thing that a person can be doing. You need to treat them with the same respect and the same gratitude as if they were a $5 million donor. Other risks, there will be legal challenges, and we can advise you of how to minimise those. Across the board, around about 4% of bequest income is lost to legal complexity. Again, we can help minimise that. Governance is king. You need to make sure you're reporting back to estates. Please make sure you look after your people who are running bequest programs. Every time your organisation receives a bequest, one of your key supporters has lost their lives. So look after the bequesters' families and make sure you care for your staff, because they will have grown really caring, important relationships. But by far the greatest risk is inaction. Given that income may not be realised till beyond your term, encourage directors to lift your gaze and look several horizons ahead, investing for the future and for the communities you serve. How can you prioritise the funds? We get it, funding is tight, but it's just vital that you make it happen. Cumulate specialises in doing more with less and focusing resources where they'll deliver the greatest impact. So here are 5 creative ways that we can help your board free up funding. Surely by now you are using AI for funding submissions. Introduce Gen AI for trust and foundation submissions so your team can free up the time to work on bequests. Ensure you're asking your donors to pay what it takes. There's a whole campaign around this right now. If you're not asking your donors to contribute to indirect costs, then you're missing out on potentially 20 to 30% of your philanthropic income. We can help you with the policies and train your fundraisers to ask donors to contribute to your overheads. You can outsource various aspects. Predictive modelling will help us learn which donors we should be working with, and we can also outsource most of the administration of estates. And trust me, you'll encounter less legal obstacles, reduce your administrative support, and really see that return on investment grow. A key one for me on how to free up funding is rethinking events. Costly events are rarely the answer. It's likely to be worthwhile to reduce your big events and put the investment back into bequests. We sure know where you'll get the biggest bang for your buck. Our final thoughts really are that it is the number one thing a director should be thinking about. Make sure your organisation is investing in bequests. It needs to be patient, sustained, ongoing investment. You will see great financial returns, and just as importantly, you'll see great relationships grow for your organisation. It might be the most important funding decision you make for your organisation and the communities it serves for generations to come. We are here to partner you. We've got great partnerships end to end at our end that mean that we can support you at every step of the way. Predictive modelling partners, communications partners to get your collateral together, and then estate management partners to help you really get the best out of the program. There's a great quote here about the program I put into the AFL. In 2006, in my time with DVA Navion, the AFL invited me to develop a new fundraising program across its clubs. We began with the mighty Richmond Footy Club, where I felt really privileged to develop a bequest program alongside club great Neville Crowe. Here we saw firsthand the meaning and the joy members received from leaving a bequest to the footy club they loved. When a confirmed bequester passed away, her daughter told Neville of the joy and the meaning that her mother had felt on leaving the club a gift in her will. So much so that she chose to leave the club a gift in her will as well. And while it's been 15 years since I was involved in the Richmond program, it's wonderful to know the club has sustained investment for it to become the thriving program that it is today, that delivers real meaning and real connection to its members. And that's what it's really all about. One generation paying it forward to future generations, organisations continuing to invest in a very sustained way. It's real and it's meaningful. That's about it from me. Please make sure you let me know if it's been useful, any feedback, any topics that you're keen to hear. We'll focus some more sessions on how you get your narrative out and tell your story to inspire investment, how you grow a culture of philanthropy, that piece on encouraging donors to pay what it takes to deliver the great work that you do. But do let us know if there's other topics to be addressed. Bye for now.